There are parts of the Bible that people know, whether they're religious or not. I grew up watching American football games where fans held up placards with the scripture reference John 3:16 written on them. And these signs were as much a part of the sports culture as marching bands or cheerleaders. A lot of folk know the Bible's Christmas story, whether they celebrate the holiday or not. I went to a university where the book of Job was studied as literature. There are things in the Bible that are legitimate pub quiz questions, not just specialist knowledge. And a section of today's Gospel is one of those. Today's Gospel famously contains the shortest verse in the King James Bible. Jesus wept. This verse was popular among kids I grew up with in a church that valued the memorization of Scripture. We bandied it around as the easiest one to learn by heart. That's what passed as fun in some circles. But the verse is famous for other reasons, too. People use the phrase Jesus wept to express frustration or disbelief, or they use it sarcastically to show how little they care about something. You'll find it used in novels by Stephen King and Neil Gaiman, in Mark Haddon's The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And you'll have heard it in movies like the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia, or in Get Carter, starring Michael Caine, or in the 4-time Academy Award-nominated film Notes on a Scandal. You don't have to search long and hard to find this phrase in popular culture. But I wonder if it's one of the many phrases we use every day without really knowing where it comes from. Phrases like, a wolf in sheep's clothing, a fly in the ointment, and give up the ghost. All have their origins in Scripture, just like the short phrase, Jesus wept, but do folk really know what they're saying when they say it? Because this passage says something significant. In fact, I happen to think it says one of the most important things there is to say about God. Recently, I visited St. Bavo's Cathedral in Ghent, there to view the celebrated altarpiece I'd always wanted to see. And while there was something that moved me I wasn't expecting. A statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus was in a chapel to the right, just before one enters the Adoration of the Lamb exhibition. Maybe it was the way the light was shining on it, or perhaps it was the excitement of seeing the altarpiece, but this statue caught my attention, and I snapped this photograph. This image has captivated me since. It appears in a variety of other guises in art. Some are bloody and gory. Some are cartooned and caricatured. And some of these images, like the one here, are quite entrancing. The gaze of the figure of Christ is penetrating. The viewer looks at someone looking directly at him. Jesus is pointing to the center of his chest at his heart, strangled with a ring of thorns, with a puncture wound that won't close, set ablaze with a burning fire. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." And it appears this hit Jesus where it hurts. He looked at Mary and was upset, perhaps without being sure exactly why. And when he saw where Lazarus had been laid for himself, he couldn't hold it together. Jesus was overcome with emotion, perhaps feelings of sorrow mixed with worry and sadness, bewilderment and distress. As a human, you know this emotional cocktail. Jesus' heart broke, and Jesus wept. This is the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's a heart that beats like yours and mine, that feels like yours and mine, that yearns like yours and mine. The heart of God is human. And I think that's one of the most remarkable things our faith has to say. At a time when it feels like God has left it too late, like God is in the next town or even the next universe over, when the forecast keeps changing hour by hour, when we feel like nobody's looking out for us, when we're not sure whether the kind of weird way we've been feeling lately is, well, nothing really, or something sinister, when we're not ready to say goodbye, and we have no choice. When it feels like we're dealing with all this alone, one ubiquitous phrase, in the shortest way possible, proclaims the heart of God. Jesus wept. Jesus wept with Mary, with Martha, and Jesus weeps with us.